Hey church family, it's Adam here, and I just want to take a few minutes of your time to try and answer a question that I'm sure many of you have been asking over the last few weeks. The question is this: when will we as a church family at Kingsgate be able to start meeting again on a Sunday at the King's Centre? If that question has been filling your mind, I just want to say it's a great question. It's certainly been preoccupying me over the last few weeks, and as elders we've been talking much about it and praying about it much. The short answer to that question is, at this moment in time, we don't know. We're aware that in early July, the government is going to be producing some guidance on how the next phase of unlocking from the COVID-19 restrictions will take place. And we believe that some of that guidance will relate to places of worship, churches. However, even if the guidance comes out in July that churches are able to start meeting together again on a Sunday, I want to just kind of underline for you and just almost sound a cautionary note that just because we get that guidance, it isn't necessarily going to be that straightforward for us as a church. In fact, I want to suggest to you that rather than asking the when question, when will we be able to start meeting, I want to suggest to you that more importantly for us as a church is how we get to being able to reopen is going to be way more important than the when. Let me try and explain what I mean. For some churches, they'll have very few children part of the congregation. They might be a lot smaller. And so if the guidance does come out in July saying that churches can reopen, it might be relatively straightforward for them as a church. However, for us, it's a slightly more complicated picture. Let me just try and sketch a few situations to illustrate that. First of all, we've got loads of tots part of the church, which is wonderful. We love having kids running around and playing together. However, one of the joys of tots is they're just not going to understand and adhere to social distancing rules. So how do we handle that? We've also got people in the church family who have underlying health issues that may well be worried or fearful about being in such a large group of people. How are we going to handle that? We also have quite a number of single people in the church family. And one of the ways that many churches are looking at setting out chairs when when we're allowed to meet again, but they have to employ social distancing, is putting people in family groups. This obviously saves on space, but one of my concerns is, does that kind of underline the single people in the church? Does it underline potential pain that some single people may be experiencing? We want the family of God to be a family. We don't want to be highlighting people's personal circumstances. I want to just say to you that unwinding from the lockdown is going to be complicated for us as a church. And so I want to really encourage you to, rather than be thinking about the when, I want to encourage you to be thinking about the how. How can we as a church family arrive at that destination? Because we will get there, but how can we arrive at that destination in a healthy and a wholesome way? To help us with that, I'd like to encourage you to grab a Bible, to find Ephesians chapter 4, verse 2, and to underline it. It says this: "Be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love." Let me just read that again to you. Be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. Let me just explain why I believe that particular verse could really help us to arrive at the destination of starting to meet again on a Sunday, but to arrive there in a healthy way. Firstly, be completely humble. Friends, I want to suggest to you that there are no experts in this season for us as a church. None of us have been this way before. And so I want to suggest to you that our heart posture must be one of a learner. We've got to be in a position of recognizing that we need to learn through this coming season. I also want to suggest to you that over this coming season, there are going to be lots and lots of inconsistencies. And if we're not walking with a heart of humility, we might see those inconsistencies as people failing or people not putting the appropriate things in place. Let me give you some examples. There are currently thousands and thousands of people pouring into shopping centres all across the land. Hundreds of people at one time in one particular shop. And yet for us as a church and every other church in the land, we are legally not allowed to hold a wedding, even if the wedding was with just a few people. Friends, I want to suggest to you that's an inconsistency. Another inconsistency that you might be kind of seeing at the moment is that the kind of general guidance from the government is meet people outside of your bubble, outside and in a certain size group. However, the guidance that the government have given to churches is that all through the restrictions, camera operators, worship leaders, preachers have been able to gather in a building, still with social distancing in place, in order to put in place live streaming. I say all of this because I just want to encourage us. Humility will save us from making snap judgments about situations. This coming season of unwinding from lockdown is just going to be filled with inconsistencies, and we need to be cautious about making snap judgments about situations and really dig out the guidance from the government, from other denominations and streams that are putting out guidance on a regular basis. And so I want to encourage us, let's have a heart of humility, a heart of a learner. Let's be in a position where we're ready to learn from others. Just as an aside, we're putting together a COVID-19 response team who are going to start gathering all the information from different agencies and helping us to think about, well, how can we start to unwind our cafe area? How can we start to unwind our social and community engagement projects? How can we unwind our Sundays and our other discipleship contexts? So that's something for you to be praying about. Can I also encourage you that organizations in the same field, so maybe two schools, they get the same guidance, and yet how they've looked to interpret it and implement it have been very different. And so again, just a heart of humility that when we're looking at ways forward, just because X church or X organization has done this doesn't necessarily mean that we have to do it. We need to take the guidance and learn to interpret it for ourselves. The second guiding principle from this verse is be completely humble and gentle. Gentle. Not brisk, not edgy, but gentle. Recognizing that all of us are experiencing so many new moments and that this is unsettling for many people. And so I want to encourage us as a church in this season to exercise gentleness towards one another. If somebody kind of gets the wrong end of the stick, be gentle with them. If somebody needs something explaining again, be gentle with them. Let's learn together how to be gentle through this season. Thirdly, be patient. If I could say just one thing on this whole subject of how are we going to arrive at meeting together on a Sunday, it would be this. Friends, will you be patient? There are going to be some people in the church who are, for very good reasons, very cautious, maybe even fearful about meeting together again, maybe because of some underlying health issues. Friends, I want to encourage us to be cautious, to be patient with them. Those of you who are cautious, maybe because of underlying health issues, I want to encourage you to be patient. For a season, you may have to be live streaming into a meeting where other people are gathering. And however hard we try to make it all work together, there may be some things that you just kind of feel like you're looking in through a window into the real deal. Friends, can I encourage you to be patient at this time? However we unfold things, patience is going to be needed. And the final thing that the Apostle Paul says here is bearing with one another in love. Friends, if ever there was a season where this world needs to see the church family modeling love by bearing with one another, it's now. If you get missed off an email, bear with one another in love. It wasn't intentional. In all the kind of confusion of this season, people are going to drop the ball now and again. It means recognizing that in these strange and unsettling times, sometimes people's reactions will not always be the best. Bear with one another in love. Bearing with one another is also a way of recognizing that we are frail. And we're not going to hold each other to a standard of perfection, but rather we're going to allow love to cover over a multitude of sins and a multitude of frailties. So, friends, when are we going to be meeting back together again as a church? The short answer is I don't know. But the more important answer is this. I want to suggest to you that how we get there is way more important than the when. Obviously, we will keep you in the loop on developments and we'll look to try and explain how things are going to happen. But can I encourage you in this video, don't focus on the when, focus on the how. And the how is be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. God bless you all. And we look forward with eagerness to the day when we can meet together in the building. But right now, let's look to do the how as this verse has shown us. God bless you all.